Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. I almost missed you. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the Consulog. Let me get back into my seat. Oh, that's much better. I much enjoy talking to you while I'm sitting down, because if I were to try to stand this entire episode, you'd probably see me fall over, just sleep on my feet before I even have a chance to tell you about anything that happened this past week of JavaScript news and the web news. Yes, this is a brand new episode of the Consulog number 45. Such an exciting time to be alive, to have 45 episodes of the Consulog in the past year. I think we've actually done a full, complete year of shows so far, which is so very exciting. I'm so glad that you're here with me. Did you check out last episode? Did you know that the Consulog is now also a podcast? You can check it out on the Apple Podcast Store, the Google Podcast Store, and if there's any other place that you can't access the podcast, let me know and I'll get this podcast there for you immediately. This is the week of July 16th to July 22nd. Some good news to share with you this week, and let's begin right after that ambulance stops making noises outside my window, which sounds like it's leaving, so hopefully everybody's safe. But enough about that, let's start talking about news. First item of the week, one of my favorite topics to talk about is Babel, everybody's most favorite transpiler for JavaScript code. I think it's only one of like 3 transpilers, so if that's not your favorite transpiler, maybe TypeScript is, but not many to choose from, and for me, Babel is still my favorite one. There's an interesting PR that's being opened up right now called removing the stage presets. Are you familiar with how Babel works? There is this concept of a preset when you're making a Babel transform, and a preset can bundle together a bunch of syntaxes and other transforms that can actually change how your code is transpiled. And when Babel 6 or 5 came out, they had this concept of a preset with stage presets. If you are familiar with the TC39 committee, another favorite topic of mine, the way that new features are added to the JavaScript language is through a stage proposal process. And Babel thought it would be a good idea to actually have stage presets such that when a proposal enters stage 2 and you want to use the stage 2 preset proposal, then you get all the proposals in stage 2 to be included in your Babel transform for free. And this was a good idea in theory, however, they decided to now back out this change because it's not the most maintainable way of interacting with your transforms. They've actually added a note to deprecate Babel preset ES 2015, ES 2016, ES 2017, preset stage 0, preset stage 1, preset stage 2, and preset stage 3. They do not need to deprecate Babel preset stage 4 because that's when it's actually part of JavaScript itself. In the README for all these presets, they've actually added a warning explaining why they've decided to change this behavior. To be clear, this change is coming in version 7 of Babel, which is still in beta, it's still in development, but it's going to quickly, I think it's imminently going to leave the beta process and become Babel version 7 RC. But the note says, as of version 7 beta 54, we decided to remove the official Babel stage presets. You can find more information on the issue that I'm talking about right now. But the tool I'm going to read is that it's causing more harm than convenience, and thus we're going to just remove it from the availability in the general public. So if you have been using the presets in the past, I definitely think it's past time that you should be getting off of them, because they're definitely pushing that you use the Babel preset end, which lets you decide which environment your application is targeting. So if you're targeting just Chrome, then the Babel preset will know to get the transforms that it needs just for the Chrome environment, or if you're targeting IE, it knows to get additional transforms there as well. Great move by the Babel team, making it simpler, a little bit more intuitive about using Babel. If you are using stage presets, now is the time to move away from them into the next great big thing. And because I really enjoy talking about Babel, but no, I really do enjoy talking about Babel, there was a new blog post on the Babel website about talking about what's happening with the pipeline proposal. What's happening with the pipeline proposal? Can you put it in your pipe and smoke it too? But seriously, so if you don't know what the pipeline proposal, it's a new proposal going through the TC39 process. TC39 again, But the pipeline proposal is going through the process. Essentially, it's trying to add a clean syntax for streamlining chained function calls in a readable functional manner, which is a very fancy way of saying that rather than having an ugly syntax for chaining function calls, the pipeline proposal allows for new syntax, allows you to efficiently chain function calls to each other. And this blog post talks about how when the initial pipeline proposal was introduced, it had a very minimal implementation. very simple way of having function calls be mapped over. And there's two points of contention that were not really solved by this initial proposal, one of which was how to handle placeholders, which is a functional concept about how to handle when you have a piece of data that's being passed between functions and how you want to actually symbolically have a placeholder reference that value that's being passed through multiple functions. And the other major point of contention is how to handle async and await in the pipeline. And this is still being talked about and discussed and bike-shedded and yak-shaved and all the coding concepts that you can throw at the wall. But what the Babel team did is to make it more explicit for those that are trying to use these transforms, is that now if you're using the Babel pipeline transform, you have to actually say that you are using the minimal implementation, such that when they add the implementations for there's two other proposals coming in. There's an F# proposal to add the abilities to handle placeholders, async await, and there is a smart pipelines proposal. So while those are being developed, and you want to actually use pipelines, you can use the minimal one. If you want to use the F# one, you have to say implementation F#, but in a way, it's a better way of being clear about what transform you're actually trying to use in your Babel transform. I didn't even really realize that the pipeline operator is available to be used in Babel already, so that's exciting news to me. So I'm excited to just try out a code and just try this transform and actually have pipelines in my code today. And some exciting news in the world of Gatsby, the application software that powers the console logs website. I mentioned in the past how Gatsby is actually forming a company that will actually be the steward of the Gatsby open source project, and I was curious how they'd actually make money. Well, I have had the first answer to that question this week when Gatsby, the company, announced a first service that it's now in alpha. They will eventually be charging money for in the future, but it's going to be their first step towards actually having a service that people can pay for that will actually fund the development efforts of the Gatsby open source project. And the service is Gatsby Preview, which is a thing that I think I guessed about, which essentially is it's a hosted preview service for teams using Gatsby. So if you're at a company and you have a Gatsby blog that's being powered by, right now they've added support for Contentful, they're gonna add support for WordPress later, but let's say you're using WordPress. You have a WordPress blog that a editor on your team on marketing can go into WordPress, type things up, that powers up an API that will then be consumed by Gatsby. This new Gatsby service will actually create a dynamic live preview of when the WordPress changes are being published on that end. So it's a way to empower those that are actually making the content to actually see the changes in real time. Very cool service to see being tested by the Gatsby team. Excited to see it be developed more and more. It's in alpha right now. If you're curious, you can sign up. There's a link on the blog post that's linked in the show notes, and we'll see how things go. And very excited to see more things that are coming in the Gatsby team. I love this piece of software. Gatsby is awesome. And last but not least, let me do a follow-up story from a previous week about the NPM security incident that happened where a maintainer's credentials was leaked and someone was able to log in as that maintainer and then publish some ESLint packages that had malicious code into the wider NPM ecosystem. Well, the NPM team is responding with an answer this week where they are there's a blog post talking about how they are beta testing two-factor authentication protection for packages, which means that currently, if you are a user account, you can enable two-factor authentication for your own user account. However, this change that NPM is introducing is allowing for a maintainer to require there be two-factor authentication required when publishing a package. So for example, Babel, the maintainer of Babel can say, Babel requires that anyone who wants to publish this package must have 2FA enabled. This is similar if you use GitHub, if you're in an organization where the administrator says every member of this GitHub organization must have 2FA enabled. Same thing with NPM. This is being beta tested. This is a great move of security for the NPM team. I imagine it'll be out of beta 2. I imagine it'll be out of beta soon because the NPM team moves very fast, but you can now test it today, and it should hopefully reduce any of these security incidents that happen in the future, at least the security incidents of this nature. I'm sure there will always be people finding a new way of hacking around things, because where there's value to be gained, people will find a way to gain that gain. Yeah. Okay, and that was your console episode number 45. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had a good time listening to me talk to you about all this exciting news in the ecosystem. If you are not already a subscriber, do subscribe down below. If you are not already subscribed to the podcast, do subscribe out there. I don't know where there is. I guess I should figure out how this YouTube thing works better, where I can add a link here. I can't figure out how to add links of things in YouTube. I really have no idea how to do it, but definitely subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the podcast. I have more things coming your way. I'm slowly getting to equilibrium with having a child and also doing these videos. They're still hard. Right now it's after hours for me. It's like 10:31 recording this because the baby's asleep, the wife's asleep, I have insomnia, or just a great affection for all you out there that take your time to watch me prattle on at end. But again, thank you so much for being a subscriber. Do subscribe down below if you're not already, and I will catch you again in the week which follows this one, commonly known as next week.